Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Zone, and I am with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. I serve as Senior Vice President with the organization. I'm also the Director of the Thriving Communities Program, which over the past decade has built a real expertise around doing property inventories throughout the state of Ohio. We've done them as far west as Sandusky, all the way down south, Mayor, to Hamilton, Ohio. And we've done a number of them, and my colleague Isaac will talk about some of our work and what we've done in the past. But, you know, the city of Cleveland is near and dear to our organization. We did a citywide property inventory in 2015. We did 13 neighborhoods on the southeast side in 2018, and that's why our organization's really excited, Mayor, about the Bloomberg Harvard initiative that you're leading. And then we just concluded this property inventory. So, will everyone please give a warm welcome to our Mayor, Justin Bibb.
Thank you. I'm sure former Councilman Matt Zone is excited to be back at City Hall. He was running court here this morning in the Red Room. It's like you never left, Matt. Well, first, I want to just thank all the partners that made this possible. The Western Reserve Land Conservancy, the Rocket Mortgage Foundation, and really Director Sally Martin O'Toole for your leadership, hitting the ground running since last year to get this property survey done. This survey is so important because it truly allows the city to do a couple things. Number one, be more aggressive around code enforcement. It's going to give us more tools to crack down on predatory out-of-state landlords and investors. It also is going to beef up our ability to address the lead paint crisis that we see in our homes all across the city. And as the former mayor of New York once said, Mike Bloomberg, you can't manage what you can't measure. That's right. And so with the finite amount of resources that we have here at City Hall, we want to make sure we're using a data-driven approach to address these issues in our community. And with the historic federal investments we've gotten from the American Rescue Plan, we believe this database will make sure that we execute these investments to ensure that our residents feel and see the change when it comes to neighborhood stability across all 17 wards across our city. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank the amazing hard work of our public servants who did this work. They worked from sun up to sundown, got trained in using new technology to get this work complete, and it's because of their hard work that we have this database in place today. So thank you for your hard work. This is what public service is all about. So we appreciate everyone being here today, and we look forward to the conversation we're going to have here this morning. Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, it is good to be back at City Hall. Having spent 19 years here at the other side of the hall, I know that it's hard to move policy, it's hard to move projects forward without the collaboration and support of the legislative branch of government. And we're so fortunate to have with us this morning the chairman of the Development, Planning, and Sustainability Committee, who's very passionate about housing. Will everyone please give a warm welcome to Councilman Chairman Anthony Harrison.
Good morning again, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Zone. You know, once a councilman, always a councilman, right? That's right. It never leaves your blood. I'm sure he still drives down the street and turns around and say, okay, I got to send this in to someone. You know, I get in trouble all the time. I can't drive past a house. I can't go past a vacant lot. And I'm stopping, pulling out my pen, and my wife is like, really? Can we just get to the store? I'm like, you know, absolutely. But nonetheless, again, as the mayor and Councilman Zone said, we thank all of those who participated in making this come to light. It was hard work across many departments here in the city of Cleveland. It was all led by our fantastic new director, Sally Martin O'Toole. She came right in the door and said, listen, we have to get this done. You know, we are tired of being reactive. We need to find ways to be proactive. And I really believe, and my colleagues believe, that this new property survey will allow us to be proactive and not be reactive to the issues and conditions that exist in our community. You know, this happened almost 15 years ago. And as a result of the study that was done almost 15 years ago, at that time I was back on coming in county council, and the data that was used to help determine where the demolition dollars went. The dollars that we determine how we and where do we provide home rehabilitation work. that survey helped us in making those decisions. And we believe together between the administration and the council that this will allow us to be able to strategically direct resources all across our city to support the areas, one, that are most need, and then work our way down. So we are very much excited. You know, you will love this interactive map. I got a chance to interact with Isaac Robb, who is also part of the leadership team of West Reserve Land Conservancy, who undertook this work. And it's really a fantastic thing. No longer do you have to pull out your GIS map or, you know, try to figure out, well, who remembers who used to stay here? You know, what information do you recall about this property? This information will allow us to pinpoint specific data that will overall lead to a better and healthier community here in the city of Cleveland. So we thank everyone for their support. We thank, again, Director O'Toole and other directors who lent their staff, right? Because that was hard to do. And we just look forward to the work that's going to come out of all of this. Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Harrison, thank you for your leadership in this space. I know you both take this very serious, and we're really excited to partner with you. As Councilman Harrison mentioned, when Director Sally Martin O'Toole first joined the Bibb administration, her highest priority was to get a handle of the condition of the housing stock in the city of Cleveland. Director Martin O'Toole, I have to remember, not call you by your first name. She was the catalyst behind, you heard me mention earlier, the inner ring suburbs, the 13 inner ring suburbs, where we did that analysis and authored that report, Communities at a Crossroad. Because as working in the city of South Euclid, she saw what was happening into the city was spreading into the inner ring suburbs. So will everyone give a please warm welcome to the champion here at City Hall for the property inventory, Director Martin O'Toole.
Thank you for that warm welcome, and I would be remiss if I didn't immediately thank our staff who have been the ground troops in this whole effort. So when we started this initiative, it was started in late October. People thought we were crazy to spend a Cleveland winter surveying all 167,000 plus parcels in Cleveland, but they did it. And I think we all owe them a huge debt of gratitude, and many of them are here today. We wouldn't have been able to do this without the generous support of our funders. Two of them are sitting here today, so I want to recognize Rocket Community Fund and Rob Lockett, who's here today, and also Candace Williams from LISC. These were two of our major funders for this initiative. This did not cost the taxpayers money. We were able to gather the dollars we needed to hire Western Reserve Land Conservancy to manage this. And then in addition, of course, our leadership staff, we have Eric Elmy and Tim Kobe. We're very grateful to them for leading this effort. And the staff of the Western Reserve Land Conservancy has been nothing short of amazing. So Adrian and Isaac and Nina and Sadie, day in and day out, telling inspectors where to be, herding the cats, doing all the work. And so as the mayor said, and I believe as Councilman Harrison said, we can't do an effective job of code enforcement without being data-driven. And that's part of modernizing City Hall too. We all have scarce resources. Every City Hall has scarce resources. How we utilize those resources needs to be data-driven and quite specific. So we believe we will be able to pivot now to proactive code enforcement and away from a reactive complaint-based system by using this data, and we will utilize it to its fullest. So thanks to everybody for making this happen. We're very grateful to you all.
Again, we can't thank you enough, Director, for your leadership and really wanting to get this work done and to assist. As Director Martin O'Toole said, this was a budget-neutral opportunity for the city of Cleveland. So to the mayor and to the chairman, your frugality and fiscal conservativeness shine through, but we still got the work done. Our next speaker came to our organization as a young intern and worked on his first property inventory from day one. Isaac Robb is an expert in this space, and he has led many of our property inventories since he's joined our team. Give a warm welcome to our Senior Vice President of Planning, Isaac Robb.
Good morning, everyone. As Matt said, my name is Isaac Robb with Western Reserve Land Conservancy. It's wonderful to see many of you here today. The last time we met, it was outside in Slavic Village, and we were all wearing a lot more layers. So it's nice to be indoors in this beautiful room in a more casual environment. Today, though, we are proud to present the results of the hard work that everyone's undertaken with the Cleveland 2023 Citywide Property Inventory. Again, some of my remarks are going to be a little redundant, but the one thing I'm fine with being redundant on is the matter of thanks to all of the hard work of our partners with the city administration, Cleveland City Council, as well as our civic partners that made this possibility. We also worked with Healthy Homes inspectors at our local CDCs, so we appreciate the partnership with CMP and all the local CDCs, as well as the Cuyahoga County Land Bank. For the vision of Cleveland's revitalization to fully be realized by the Bibb administration, members of council, and our greater civic community, we feel strongly that we need to demonstrate a culture of caring that is unmatched in our city. What I love most about this project is that we now have an opportunity for 167,000 individual opportunities to care. Working in the public sector and being a public servant is often a thankless job. At its best, perhaps the heroism of our first responders will be recognized for their acts of valor, but it's unlikely that people are recognized that work in the sanitation department, that are arborists, that are linemen or linewomen, or in this case, building and housing inspectors. They deserve every ounce of recognition that we're getting here today, and this is something that, again, it's a thankless job. They walked many, many steps, which I'll get to, and it's really a testament to their commitment to the city and their culture of caring that really inspires this work and everyone moving forward. It is contagious, so that when a Healthy Homes inspector has a conversation with a resident, when someone fixes their porch, a house is painted, or a roof is repaired, we are demonstrating to our city and our collective civic leadership that we care about this place, and so should you. We have over 100,000 occupied structures in the city. That means we have an equal, if not greater, number of opportunities to make Cleveland a safer, healthier, and more enjoyable place for us all to call home. This data that we will review with you this morning, I promise we'll get to the data, will highlight a multitude of ways that we can continue working together to achieve these goals. I previously mentioned that we walked every street in Cleveland to accomplish this. My colleague Adrian Marty will highlight that a little bit more, but that means that we walked over 1,408 miles together. That's, to give a little context, that's over 3,100,000 steps and close to 54 marathons. But before diving into this data, I would like to again thank the project funders. Without your support, this would not have been possible. The Rocket Community Foundation, LISC, and the Cleveland Foundation for their unwavering support. Again, special thanks to our staff at the Land Conservancy, special thanks to the staff at Building and Housing, Community Development, the Mayor's Office, Planning, and the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects. And again, special thanks to Director Martin O'Toole. Without your leadership, this wouldn't be possible. We also recognize that data in and of itself does not make us smarter, but it can make us more informed. When analyzed and deployed in a thoughtful way, we can share the values of the administration and look forward to see how this data will support the numerous initiatives that were mentioned and some others that I will show through this story map. And again, at the end of the day, this data means nothing unless it directly benefits the residents and businesses within our city. So, going to the data. I'm not sure for the cameras here, you might want to stay on my face, but this is a lot more interesting, I promise. So how have things changed in our city since we undertook that citywide property inventory in 2015? This is an online story map that is currently live on the Land Conservancy website. All of the data has already been shared with city departments, and it will go live on the amazing database at Case Western Reserve University and their NeoCandu team, NST. So anyone with a .gov.edu or .org address that has a login will be able to access this data in real time. Again, I want to thank the funders. Branding is important. We recognize that. Thank you so much. But this story map, like I said, is online. So what you can do here, as you can see in the bottom right, there's a sort of a zoom in and zoom out. But we've highlighted this data both on the ward level as well as the neighborhood level. So you can focus in, again, Councilman, I know you care about every neighborhood in the city, but there might be a specific ward that you pay a little extra attention to, and this sort of data set allows us to accomplish that. But unsurprisingly, our housing stock continues to age at a rapid rate, and that has far outpacing supply. As someone who lives in the city of Cleveland in a house that is well over 100 years old, I understand the amount of time and resources it takes to maintain a house in our city. This is why the proactive code enforcement being led by Building and Housing Department with the partnership of the Law Department is so critical. We need to continue allocating resources to families and households that were withheld those funds due to redlining and blockbusting and then flooded with predatory loans that led to the foreclosure crisis. We must also hold those out-of-state speculators that the mayor referenced accountable. Too many people are allured to Cleveland's relatively inexpensive real estate, but don't really want to invest in the community, but merely extract the wealth from our neighbors that are already struggling. Here you can see the breakdown of letter grades for all of the occupied structures in the city. While obvious, it is worth noting that the overall conditions now that you will see for the vacant structures is much worse than those of the occupied structures. The key will be to improve those conditions of the occupied C and D properties that maybe just need a little TLC, while holding those landlords that are in those lower graded structures to account. We'll also need to continue to monitor those D and F rated properties for continual demolition to make sure that our neighborhoods remain stable. We also then need to think about the long-term implications of what the increase in demolition will look like and the amount of vacant lots that that will create. Again, going off of what the mayor stated, there's a real interest here between local versus out-of-state investors. But before I get into that, I just want to highlight sort of the methodology on what an A property is, occupied versus vacant. And you can see, again, the disbursement of this data throughout our neighborhoods, both on the east side as well as the west side. And again, there are hyperlinks within the story map so folks can look a little bit deeper into the training that the surveyors undertook to make these determinations on property conditions. So what I would like to highlight here is just, there are areas in our city, both on whether you're west side, east side, north or south, that are really stable and really strong. And we have areas that need help in each neighborhood as well. So there's not a one or the other. It's an all hands on deck, everything all at once approach. Getting into the out-of-state ownership, the trend continues. Using the amazing database that I referenced at Case Western Reserve University, we can highlight the out-of-state owners, which show that more of their housing units are in a distress compared to local owners based on their tax mailing addresses and mortgage information that's released by the HMDA data. Another initiative that is of great import is that of lead. Working with Karen and her team, she is laser focused on the lead hazards and abatement and making sure that our fight against the lead paint crisis moves forward. By joining the exterior conditions like peeling paint and bare soil with the publicly available data on housing age, the rental registration, partners can prioritize and monitor the most egregious examples to concentrate on lead abatement and education in a holistic way. So here you can see everything that received the lead placards. Here are signs of peeling paint. Everything before 1978 is something of particular interest. And then bare soil is another area that we want to focus on. One example that I'd like to draw people's attention to is in the Cadell neighborhood in Madison Elementary School. As you can see here, we all know that children are especially susceptible to lead paint. So in yellow is Madison Elementary School, and you can see around it areas that have received a lead placard, have bare soil, or peeling paint. So again, being as strategic as possible, working with our partners at CMSD and the Safe Routes to School program, we can really take that strategic approach that everyone has mentioned here today. I would also like to highlight there's been a lot of conversation around vacant land. We have seen an increase in vacant land in the city since the 2015 property inventory, especially in areas that have experienced that level of disinvestment and depopulation that we highlighted earlier. But as you will see, many of these vacant lots are prone to dumping if they remain open grassland. So we're working with the Department of Public Works to, again, be proactive and share where hot spots of dumping are, to think about creative ways to repurpose this. Working with the city, CDCs, the land bank, and residents, we have been involved in a US EPA grant, environmental justice problem-solving grant, working on Cleve Lot. So how can we best manage and leverage those vacant lots to enhance our communities through tree plantings, through the expanded ownership, through the side yard program, meadow habitat, and other nature-based solutions that allow us to right-size our city in the face of the climate crisis. So again, there are areas that have distressed vacant lots all across our city. There are certain areas that have higher levels of concentration. But this is something, again, those cues of care. If you're walking down the street and you see that someone has a side yard with a privacy fence, or someone has planted a really nice ornamental garden, things like that, that really triggers that sense of caring, versus if you see someone that had a tire shop coming in from other places in the county or outside the county and just view our city as a place that they can cheaply dispose of their waste materials. Again, we see a lot of people using vacant lots as expanded parking. That's something that Mayor's Office of Capital Projects, looking at those curb cuts and things like that. But I also want to highlight all the improvements on the vacant land. Again, I mentioned the side yard program, dumping prevention, tree planting, really encouraging owners and residents to take more of a responsibility block by block, parcel by parcel. And we can see sort of that the data supports that once you make those type of relatively low cost improvements, instances of dumping decrease, and the neighborhood stabilizes in unique and powerful ways. We recognize we want to have harmony between gray development and green development, and this is where I'll get to sort of another initiative that the city is leading, where I think it's really important to strategically deploy those gray development dollars, whether it's putting assets to work or with a lot of the ARPA funds that City Council have leveraged with Habitat for Humanity, CHN, and other partners. Here is another example of the hot and cold spots and how you can see the difference over time. Hopefully the internet will speed up a little bit here. There we go. There we go. I just need to scroll a little bit more. So you can see the vacant lots in gray, and then the hot spots, which is concentrations of vacant lots, and where the opportunity is strongest in green. So you can sort of toggle back and forth. To, again, better support the strategic initiatives of all of our partners. I referenced the balance and harmony between gray and green development. The city is leading a very innovative and important, I got ahead of myself. We already talked a little bit about the illegal dumping and where that is concentrated. We have a really good partnership with the city and the County Solid Waste District. They support this initiative that we work with them and some other nonprofits. So when illegal dumping is identified, we try and go out, whether it needs a front-end loader or just a dumpster or even just general litter cleanup. So again, it's staying on top of this, reporting it, and tracking it to identify where dumping occurs in certain areas over time. This highlights sort of the highest concentration by ward where illegal dumping takes place. And again, through our research and looking at evidence on these dumping sites, a lot of this debris, we speculate, is coming from outside of the city. It's not coming from within in the neighborhoods where the dumping exists. So the 15-minute city initiative is another area of great interest. The mayor and the Cleveland Planning Commission have really supported this to be the first 15-minute city in the United States. So this data aligns perfectly with the inventory data to really track and monitor where amenities are so people can access everything that they need within a 15-minute walk of where they live. This could be a school, a grocery store, a library, recreation center, or a park. The analysis also highlights areas outside of those nodes where new development is not likely to occur in the foreseeable future, barring some large macro migration trends. But this property inventory wasn't just about the buildings, it's also about other areas in the public right-of-way, like sidewalk conditions. We have data on sidewalks, fire hydrants, the curb condition, if there was a street tree planted. Quick show of hands, does anyone know what a truncated dome is? I didn't either, but that's the sidewalk for people that might have vision impairment to be able to feel when they're crossing a street at an intersection. So we have data on where those are at different intersections. So again, the city's culture of care is not just in the staff hours and time dedicated to this project, but in the questions posed by the inventory. In addition to the housing stock, like I mentioned, we have all of this other information that will help Cleveland neighborhoods be more walkable, safe, and accessible, whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old. And this perfectly aligns with the recently passed and adopted Complete and Green Streets ordinance that the city is working hard to implement. In conclusion, I implore those of you in the media to consider how this data can be talked about, not only in the to trot out the stale narratives around neighborhood change and property values, decline and reinvestment, but really to dig into this data and think about new possibilities on how this can improve processes, empower residents through tangible engagement, and inspire each employee and resident of the city to care a little more each day. We can now say firsthand that the employees we worked with at the City of Cleveland and local CDCs care deeply about this work and take it incredibly seriously. I would ask each of you to care about the city as deeply as they do and how you report on this project. If we all begin doing that, I know that the trends in the data are going to take care of itself, and it will really reflect when we do this again. What year are we doing this next? 26. Karen wants to do it again in 26. That we'll really be able to demonstrate that culture of care in a few years' time. So with that, I think all of us would be, actually, I want to hand it over to my partner in crime, Adrian Marty, who actually was the project lead, to talk a little bit about the day in, day out of the property inventory.
Thanks, Isaac. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to take this moment to just say hello to the surveyors. It's so good to see everyone again. Congratulations, you did it. It is so incredible what you have all accomplished. As Isaac said, 1,408 miles. So to put that in context, that's a collective walk to Key West, Florida. All these miles you walk together, and Hippocrates stated, walking is the best medicine. So you all must be the healthiest people in Cleveland right now. Although your physical feat is incredibly impressive, even more impressive was the way you engaged with curious Clevelanders. You connected with them in incredible ways. Part of my job was to connect with residents after each surveyor presented an information card with my phone number on it. They called me, and time again, they said how incredible you all were and how proud they were that you worked for the City of Cleveland and the community development corporations you worked with. So thank you for walking through our city with so much grace and integrity. It really gave them hope to see you guys on the streets. Not every call was that warm. Some people were a little nervous about people taking pictures of their home. So even those calls are incredible. There was a woman in West Park who was pretty irate about that, but quickly I started to describe what we were doing. We were focused on the sidewalks and taking in that information. she said she was recently paralyzed and that she is in a wheelchair now. So that was an incredible moment to think about all the information that came from her. She's like, I know my sidewalks, and that is something I'm navigating. So this project means so much to the residents, and I really appreciated working with you. It was an honor. Thank you.
So before the mayor and others open up to Q&A, Mayor Bibb and Director Martin O'Toole have some special accommodations that they want to pass out. We're going to do that quickly, and then we'll save about 20 minutes for Q&A. Director?
Thank you. Mayor, do you
Yep.
want to do the honors?
Okay. Want me to read the whole thing?
No.
To the Rocket Community Fund, thank you so much. To LISC, thank you, Candace.
We'll hold this one for the Cleveland Foundation.
This is for the Cleveland Foundation.
Now we're getting into Western Reserve stuff.
To the Honorable Councilman Matt Zone. To Miss Michaela Hubbard. Is she here? She's not here. Okay. To Brian Baylor. Okay. You can clap for Brian still. To Miss Chrissy Wells. Okay, we'll clap for
Another
Chrissy.
team member. Yeah.
Sadie Jones, Miss Sadie Jones. There you go. Congratulations. Hopefully you framed that. To Miss Nina Jeffries. To Mr. Adrian Marty. And last but not least, Mr. Isaac Robb. Fun fact, Isaac's kicking off Daddy Boot Camp this weekend. So he's excited about that. So now we'll do a couple of questions if folks have any.
Mayor, what surprised you about the results?
Well, I think we all assumed that the out-of-state properties would have a lower grade, but being able to justify that assumption with real data, I think is very powerful for Sally's effort. We also just this week, we brought on our brand new Chief of Housing Enforcement, Dennis Roberts. His nickname is called the Hammer. And so I know he's looking forward to figuring out how we as a city have more efficient processes to hold these out-of-state landlords accountable to manage these properties to stabilize our neighborhoods.
What's next?
I'll let Sally chime in on that.
What's next? There's so much. So for one thing, knowing exactly the location of all the targets for demolition is very helpful in terms of targeting resources and efforts. We're, of course, working on the Mayor's Southeast Side initiative as a top priority of the administration, so this data will fuel that work. But most importantly, it's taking the department in a direction of being proactive instead of reactive. We don't believe residents should have to call when there's a bad house on their street. We should be on top of it. And this is one way to get there.
What does the scope of tackling those blighted homes within F grade look like when we talk about future demolition?
Our demolition bureau is staffed up to do this work, and we have been working on it already. So we had preliminary results of this survey. We've been teeing properties up. We also have a great opportunity with the Ohio Department of Development. There's another iteration of a demolition grant that is going to be hitting very soon. We took advantage of the first iteration to save the taxpayers' dollars and take down hundreds of properties using a grant. We're going to do that again. So we're getting everything teed up and ready if it can't be saved. But another primary objective of the administration is to preserve and protect affordable housing wherever we can. And so we intend to work with what ARPA funds are available to start saving what we can save. There are many properties through the State of Ohio Forfeited Lands Inventory, which we believe can be saved. And in fact, we have a Harvard Brookings Fellow working this summer just on that alone. And Alan Niter is here with us today, and that's his full-time job, is to look at those opportunities and to pounce on them.
Any other questions?
A quick question for Isaac. I might have missed it, but what was most of the homes in the city, what is their grade?
Most of the grades, unsurprisingly, are still that A, B, or C grade. So, and it's sort of up there with the absolute numbers as well as percentage. That actually I can pull up real fast. So if you, so again, over 100,000 of the parcels surveyed were occupied structures. And here, if you look at this bar chart on the bottom, the vast majority are in that A through C. Very small minority are in the D and F. And that shifts a little bit though when you transition from occupied to vacant. So you can see the Ds and Fs are a much greater percentage of the vacant structures.
So how do you, for city staff, how do you ensure that those Bs and Cs don't become Ds and Fs over the years?
Well, first and foremost, that's why we spent so much of our American Rescue Plan funds on a housing stability and a housing for all agenda for the residents of Cleveland. Significant capital for home repair and home rehab, particularly for our seniors. And as the director mentioned, we want to make sure we can preserve what we can preserve and revitalize what we can revitalize. And those properties that are D or F, we have to demolish those properties, making sure we have a strategy as a city to turn those vacant lots into productive assets for the city of Cleveland.
And how do you address people who can't maybe afford to fix their homes?
Well, that's why we spend a lot of our American Rescue Plan dollars on real capital around home repair and home rehab, particularly for low-income residents and our seniors, and continued collaboration with our foundation partners like Cleveland Housing Network as well, too. Anything you want to add to that, Councilman, from your standpoint?
No, just, the mayor is correct. And, that's often a challenge, right? Once you do these surveys or the conditions, how do you help those who can't help themselves? So the mayor's correct. And so with a strong collaboration between administration and council, we have set aside money for home repair. And as I said earlier, that these results will help us know where to direct these dollars. We know who is in the most need of these repairs. And we all may want a new roof, or we all may want our steps fixed, but this data will have information available to all of us to make the best decisions on who and where we support those rehab dollars.
Courtney.
Yeah, I'm curious, you talked about, this seems like this is setting the table for a whole bunch of work City Hall wants to do in this category. And I am curious, cracking down on out-of-state investors, lead enforcement, more proactive code enforcement. Can you give a sense of Clevelanders what's that going to look like in practice? When are they going to maybe start seeing that proactive enforcement in their neighborhoods?
We'll talk about that.
And I will say, on a neighborhood group I'm a part of, people were concerned that they're going to start getting code violations. I hope you can address those concerns.
Sure. Obviously, the first order of business is addressing the worst of the worst by linking residents with resources if they're living in properties that need to be improved. We have unprecedented grant funds. We have unprecedented low-interest loan funds out there, and we want to not be punitive, but to help residents access those dollars to repair their homes. Lead is a huge issue, as you all know, and so I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our lead strategy. And there's lots of money out there to help people make their homes lead safe. So we certainly want to educate them about that, educate them about lead risk. And so that's right front and center of everything we do, is making sure Cleveland homes are lead safe and no more children get poisoned. So it's not a punitive direction that we're heading in, unless you're a very derelict, neglectful out-of-state owner, in which case, watch out, we're coming for you. So we want to help our residents sustain their home ownership and build home ownership where we have lost so much ground. We are back, unfortunately, where we were before the Fair Housing Act passed in the black-white home ownership gap. That's completely unacceptable. So we have a big job to do there as well, making home ownership and affordable home ownership attainable for Cleveland residents.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't stress enough, this to date, we've done dozens of property inventories over the years, our organization. This to date is the most comprehensive property inventory we've ever undertaken. Typically, we will ask on each parcel maybe 20, no more than 30 questions. When Mayor Bibb and Director Martin O'Toole saw the questions that we asked, they asked, could you ask 53 questions for every parcel? Thank you, Mayor. So over 167,000 parcels were analyzed. 53 questions were answered for each property. This is the most comprehensive data set that the city has ever undertaken. And then the software company we work with, Regrid, to our understanding, it is, we're the only big city in America that has done 3 property inventories in their city. So that's a real testament to the city leadership being, having the vision to really be proactive about how they implement strategies moving forward.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay.
So, it's kind of a weird way to ask this, but I was on Zillow the other day, and I noticed that when there are new homes, or new, apartment buildings, homes, housing being constructed, they're a lot more modern, and it almost feels out of place, right? There's a $200,000+ offering next to down the street a $50,000 offering that needs a lot of help. How do you ensure, like, with the gentrification is what I'm
Yeah.
getting at. How do you ensure that people can still afford to live where they already live? without
I'll let Director Martin chime in, but I think you pose an important question. And this is why data is so important to ground the discussion. I think it's critical that we not focus on an either or. I'll give you an example. When my late grandmother bought her house, I'm sure she bought that house with the intention that that house will be passed on to my generation as a way to create wealth. Because as we know, home ownership is the biggest way to create wealth in America. And there are many residents in every part of the city, from the east side to the west side, particularly in the southeast side, that want to see their property values go up so they can create wealth. But at the same time, it's our job here at City Hall is to make sure we have the right policy tools in place to prevent that kind of displacement. That's why we're so focused on new legislation that Sally is helping to lead around holding out-of-state investors more accountable. That's why the home repair, home rehab grants that we're putting out to the marketplace for residents is so critical. That's why we're so excited to be partnering with City Council on a down payment assistance program, particularly in our middle neighborhoods, to create a nice pathway to home ownership in our city. But as the second poorest big city in America, we have to focus on putting people back to work, having an economy that grows wages, and really creating long-term wealth creation in our city. And creating wealth is not a bad thing. But we also need to make sure that folks aren't displaced, and we are laser focused on doing that here at City Hall, but also making sure that the legislature supports us in those efforts as well, too. Anyone want to add something?
Just to your point about housing typologies shifting in some neighborhoods and seeing new constructions very expensive, just like everything in the world, we all benefit from diversity. So we benefit from having diverse housing typologies in all of our neighborhoods. Clevelanders shouldn't have to leave Cleveland to find the housing typology that they want. And so that's important too, but with an eye to not displacing residents, which is critical. So one of the initiatives we're working on with Rocket Community Fund, and I want to mention this, Rob, is the Make It Home program. And when we have a tenant living in an unstable situation of a tax foreclosed property, Make It Home gives us a pathway to create home ownership for that resident. So we're working on that with enterprise community partners and other external nonprofits, and we will be standing that program up, as well as Mayor and everyone else has described, unprecedented funds to help our residents sustain and support their home ownership.
I'm curious, I want to ask a question about vacant land in Cleveland. With our population declines and all the historical things and why we're at where we're at now, the city is and does look different than it did years ago. I'm curious, with that forward-looking look to the future, clearly vacant land has increased since the last property survey. We're talking about demos and the Ds and Fs. So we'll have more vacant land. Can you just talk a little bit maybe about the vision for what Tomorrow's Cleveland is with all that vacant land as part of our ecosystem?
Yeah, and I apologize. Working with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, I kind of flew through the urban tree canopy aspect of this, which was a big oversight on my part. But the Cleve Lot Initiative is really how we're trying to tackle this issue. Unfortunately, the vacant land issue is not unique to Cleveland. It's something that is persistent in a lot of our legacy city partners. But it is, again, how do we show I'll take the 5 Streets initiative being led by the Buckeyes Mission Ministry Alliance on the corner of Shaker Boulevard and Woodhill. They've really been laser focused on 5 blocks over the past decade, working with Habitat for Humanity and doing that all hands on deck approach. Everyone that's eligible for a side yard, get them a side yard. Any house that can be rehabbed, Habitat for Humanity is rehabbing it. They're also putting dozens of new homes there. And while that's only on 5 blocks, that type of really consistent strategic model, I think, is critical. So with the 15-minute city initiative, we obviously don't think that side yards or tree plantings make a lot of sense in an area that is really close to a grocery store or a school. So those should be areas to prioritize that infill housing development. But if there are not a lot of existing amenities, we all know retail follows rooftops. And if we're gonna take some of that scarce resources, we need to look at maybe, again, alternative greening techniques that Philadelphia, through their land care program, has done a great job. Where can we plant trees? Where can we maybe do alternatives to just mowing grass? That's a huge expense and strain on the city's resources. But again, this map sort of tells it all. Look at the aerial imagery of the tree canopy in our region and look at the city of Cleveland. We have a 14% tree canopy. We have a commitment to a 30% tree canopy by 2040. The mayor's administration has reconvened the Urban Tree Commission. This is a health equity. This is an environmental equity issue. And again, it's something as simple as planting a tree on all, in front of vacant lots to prevent dumping. We have to think about short-term interventions that are relatively low cost and high impact, as well as some of those long-term investments like new infill housing to truly address the vacant land issue. But again, there are 20,000 vacant lots in the city inventory. That means there are probably going to be 20,000 unique situations based on each of those vacant parcels. But in expanding community ownership, these residents have lived in these neighborhoods. They've gone through a lot. If they live next to a parcel that they want to take ownership of, I'm speaking for myself, why not? We need all of us to share in that ownership, especially on the southeast side where a lot of that vacant land is concentrated.
And we're in early conversations with city council and other community partners about how we as a city can be more efficient and modern about the process of how we manage these vacant lots to put those vacant lots back into productive use. That's why the study we did last year with the Sorensen Institute around our Putting Assets to Work program was so critical, which led to our $50 million site fund for good jobs that's taken 1,000 acres of vacant land and gonna turn those brownfield sites into greenfield sites to attract and retain new companies back to the urban core. So it's all about putting our assets to work and thinking outside the box about how we really apply the spectrum of solutions to these vacant lots across the city. And now we have the data to be precise and have targeted scale with target interventions across all 17 wards of the city.
Maybe we'll take
One more question.
I was going to ask about demolition dollars. What's the availability there? And is there
Thank you for the question. We have approximately $21 million the city has available for demolition. In addition to that, as stated, we have the ODOD demolition grant that actually doesn't cap the amount we can apply for. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to be awarded for it, but hopefully that's going to help stretch our dollars and make us be able to complete the blight removal task, which is my goal. I want to complete the blight removal task. I don't want a Clevelander to live next door to a derelict property that's falling down.
you mentioned rehabbing homes, how much available funding is there for rehabbing homes?
With the support of City Council, right now, there's a lot of leverage going on with our partners and our financial institutions. So the city has put up $10 million for home repair and also another $5 million for the southeast side. We believe that is going to be maximized by leverage from some of the banking partners and hopefully some announcements coming soon about some exciting programs.
Significant investment. All right, last question.
I'm just curious, you had encouraged us to dive into the data. And I'm curious, did I misunderstand? Is this available to the public to dive into or only nonprofits and things?
It's available through the Case Western Reserve University NeoCandu database, so they manage the user access. All of the sort of macro data here, and again, you can sort of zoom in and out, is publicly available here, but for the parcel level data, that's all going to be available in NST.
Where they can
Yep.
access the macro.
Yes, and this will be embedded on the Land Conservancy website. Jared, I believe it's live now. So.
And we'll put a link on the mayor's landing page as well,
Yes.
too.
Urban AI is doing something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
So thank you.
Hell of a job,
Yeah,
man.
this is a lot of fun.
I'm excited.
This is a lot of fun.
Now we gotta get to work.